Okay, so this is the second video diary that I'm producing. Um, I'm assuming the form in which these videos are going to take is something of a therapeutic approach, um, but also an attempt to kind of unscramble a sort of psychological wiring, in a way, of performance, of who I am to perform as. Um, okay, so I mean, today I was doing some reading again. I'm reading somebody called Slavoj Zizek. So he's really challenging in a way. He's a psychoanalytic philosopher, somebody who takes psychoanalytic frameworks, particularly from a man named Lacan. Um, and of course, psychoanalysis comes from Sigmund Freud and attempts to unpack or analyze contemporary subjectivity in the 21st century. So, anyways, just doing a bit of reading today, and wasn't feeling very well waking up, and I wanted to kind of, I don't know, do a little bit of exploration. So, kind of as a synthesis of ideas that have come together from this reading today, um, are this. So this is what I kind of put together. So, um, in the kind of Zizek's perspective, using ChatGPT, great tool. So to act is to refuse to be the object. To desire is to preserve the lack. To live ethically is to subtract oneself from the obscene demand to enjoy and instead circulate around that which cannot be hand, but which makes like worth wanting. Oh god. There's the problems there. Okay, but it's also an abstract. It's very abstract in the same sense. To circulate around that which cannot be had. Okay, I think it's had for sure, but which makes life worth wanting. Okay, so I think from these ideas here, what can be kind of understood is, I suppose, where are we today? I mean, where am I today when it comes to how I understand, how I might understand myself, or how I should be performing in the world? And I guess all I can really take is that when I woke up today, I was relatively grateful for all that I have in my life. In a sense, in a very bittersweet sense, because gratefulness for me is often wrapped up around privilege, and when we talk about privilege, it's not in a sense of the contemporary. It's not something that everyone can have in certain ways. So often the good things that come into my life are in many ways related to the things in which I accidentally was given, through consequence of things I don't have any control over. So I'm grateful for those. And yet in other ways, yeah, maybe some of my hard work is also a result of that. So, yeah, I woke up, but then in the same way, so I was walking through the day, and then I was gonna do my daily routine, and then, I, I felt okay. I'm okay today, and then in the same sense, I I looked in the mirror, and then of course at that moment when I looked in the mirror, it it was it was yeah, it was challenging. Eh, it's that's something to unpack, what it means to look in the mirror and see an image of yourself, an image of yourself. And if you want to go into how we are constructed from another person's perspective, or how we come to understand ourselves through socialization of who we are and what value we hold. There's complexity into how that is understood. So in some sense, the image in which I saw myself, I was in fear, so it was uncomfortable, and then I just kind of went back into my anxiety about existence, about value in this world, value in how in some cases I feel barred. I feel a sense of restriction in how I can perform myself, and this is all it's very much in relation to the value in which we kind of feel, or I feel, that is imposed on me in order to preserve a certain sense of comfort that I might carry in this world. Okay, so yeah, that's how I felt, and then I suppose through some more reading as the day progressed, I kind of was unpacking some of those feelings a bit, and able to kind of feel a bit of ease as I've been moving through my morning. But moving forward from that, that's something of my own psychological challenge throughout a lot of my life, has been attempting to understand how to live within the gaze, Gaze, of this other, and this is with the quote. It's not so much talking about the other in this sense through psychoanalysis, but how to live and accept myself, or to not be restricted by the gaze of the other. And this might be the social other, and this might be the idea that when we are human beings in this world, that there's often feeling of a pressure to perform oneself in the correct way that allows us inclusion, right, and understanding around the people that we care about, right? So that was something of a struggle that I was working through. I've always been working through, generally speaking. So anyways, just to go back to the quote, to act is to refuse to be the object. So Zizek, in this sense, is arguing, and this is my interpretation, so and this is also relatively complex in a way, is that society is, at this point, globally, through this globalized context that we live under today, is kind of enforced, to enjoy, enforced to act in a certain way that fulfills the desire of the other. And the other is this sort of master signifier, possibly, but this other is this sort of, I suppose, this gaze, in a way, this sort of algorithm, you could say, in the contemporary context, that is kind of deciding about how value is understood today. How is all forms of existence, or identity, particularly, how is the value in assessed. And so in one way, if I can understand this, is that there often feels like there's a pressure to perform oneself in the correct way, to ensure that we maintain our value in the world, and yet there's also of course a deep anxiety, because we don't necessarily know when that value is decreasing or increasing, and yet we always feel a drive to improve. So in one way, Zizek argues that or maybe a resolution is to detach ourselves. If we can somehow recognize that there is some sort of imperative out there, in this sense, enjoyment, or, we must act. You are forced in some sense, subliminally speaking, in the sense that nothing is, yeah, sometimes direct, but in also ways not so direct, to perform a certain way correctly. Say, be the right man, be the right woman, be the right teacher, be the right father, be the right mother. And if we can recognize that this imperative is not necessary, that there is no correct person to be in this world, then that can help us disentangle ourselves from this almost psychotic direction in some way, whereby we are arrested by some form of acting in the world that makes it hard for us to survive psychologically. And then that might give us some freedom towards rewiring ourselves to live healthier lives that are more our own in a way. So, anyways, yeah, this is the second video, so I'm just gonna. This is a bit of a psychological, I suppose, project that I'm trying to work through this new approach of videos, and to kind of see where this goes when it comes to exploration of identity and attempts at, I suppose, rewiring oneself to allow space for existence, and a certain abstraction of freedom that's kind of disentangled from toxic performances that are socialized to us in the world. Okay, thanks so much.